Hello, my friends. Here we are again with the next episode of the Level Cap Podcast. I am your host, Brad Talon, joined by my co-host,
Marco DeSantos, also known as the guy who says otherwise.
and we are here to give you a brand new Level Cap Podcast full of games, design, reveals, and otherwise.
But wait, Brad, I said I was the guy who says otherwise. But then you said otherwise. What does that make me?
It makes you the otherwise guy.
Ayo! Badum-tsh, badum-tsh. Future Marco, please edit in. Badum-tsh. I hate you so much right now. Good morning, Brad. How are you?
Good morning, Marco. I'm doing well. It's been good.
Wow, you're really perky today, you know?
Just, got to put your best foot forward for the internet.
Oh, indeed. The internet is a very nice place filled with very nice people, right?
You got to put your best foot forward for the internet.
Oh, yeah, of course. We have a wonderful docket for all of you today, listeners. We have news, reveals, like Brad said, special magic incantations that will fill your brain with awesome information that you wanted but didn't know that you wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Is this accurate?
Yeah, something like that.
Indeed. So, Brad, how are you on this fine New Mexico morning? Are you a cool boy? Because I want to ask you, what have you been doing aside from being awake at this hour?
Well, I've been. Well, it was up a little bit later than I would have liked last night, but, getting some stuff ready, getting things done. I have been playing Celeste.
Is this the platformer? Is this a platformer?
This is the platformer, Celeste. Yeah, it's one of those, like, super hard platformers, kind of in the same genre as, like, Meat Boy. I decided to try it out. So, let me preface this. So, at lunch every day, I watch some YouTube, and I wouldn't recommend YouTube to anybody, but I try and watch something educational so that it's, so that's useful to me. And one of the things I've been watching recently is the Snowman Games video series on good game design, and one of the games they featured was Celeste, and I watched the video, and I was like, well, no, I've got to try this because it looks really good, and it looks like you could learn a lot from a game like this. So, I downloaded it on the Switch, give it a play. I'm about 3 worlds in. It is really great. I really love it. There's a lot more mobility and puzzle solving than Meat Boy, because Meat Boy, I don't know if you've played Meat Boy, Marco, but there's single levels at a time.
Yeah, isn't Celeste like a Metroidvania-esque kind of thing? Like, or maybe more like Mega Man.
Maybe. It's more that the worlds are all connected, so the levels are long, and so there's only like 8 of them, I think, but they're really big, and there's a lot to do, and there's collectibles, and you try to get through them all without dying, you're gonna die. You just try and get through them. So they're a little bit more of a cohesive thing than they are in Meat Boy.
I see.
And this also has, because Madeline, the main character, has so many mobility tools. Some of the game actually plays out as a puzzle, because you see the route clearly, but you'll be like, well, how can I use the movement skills that I have to actually get through this area? And sometimes you have to learn something new about your movement tools in order to solve a specific area. I think it's really good. The game is it's kind of a great way to teach a game, really.
Oh, really? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
My only experience with Celeste has been I watched it on a recent Games Done Quick, and they just ruined the entire game. By ruined, I mean they just beat it super fast. It was pretty fun to watch, and I saw the crazy mobility that they could do in that speedrun of the game. It was crazy. Like, I can only imagine like how crazy a regular playthrough is, because the movement is crazy looking. It looks really fun.
It's pretty tough. Like, they make it look so easy, but it's not so easy. I died like 200 times in World 3.
Do they count that? Do they actually count how many times you died?
Yeah, they count it.
Oh, nice.
And it's great.
Oh my gosh,
Like that's the whole
beautiful.
point, right?
Yeah,
It's like a badge of pride when you look at your death count.
yeah.
One of the things that I really like about this game is that the story is really memorable. Like in Meat Boy, they kind of just threw away the story. You know, like, oh, there's these characters that we're not going to tell you about that you don't really care about. They're just a reason to get to the end of the stage. In Celeste, you play as Madeline, who's a girl who suffers from either like anxiety or depression or hallucinations, and it's not totally clear which or all of these things that she suffers from. And so she decides to go climb this mountain to get over her fears. And so the mountain is is a literal mountain that you have to climb, but it's also the mountain inside you that represents your fears and anxieties.
Oh wow! I was
And
literally just watching a video about that on extra credits where they were talking about metaphor is meaning and how like it's kind of like that. Like it's an actual mountain, but it's also a metaphor for the inner turmoil or whatever, right?
yeah, that you have to overcome, that everybody has to overcome. Anyway, it's really memorable. It's really charming. It makes me want to design a platformer. I don't know if I could make something like this, but I want to after playing this. I want to build a platformer now.
A board game platformer?
That's what I tell a game is really good, because it makes me say, oh, I wish I had made something like this.
So you want to make a platforming board game? Is that a thing?
No, we've got a video game dev team. We can make video games.
Oh, that's true. Okay, I'm not against that. At all.
Should you tell me about what you've been doing, Marco?
Well, Brad, I've been doing two things. Number one, let me breeze over this. I've been watching JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. And
oh man, I feel like we talked too much about this show on this podcast, but which one did you watch?
I watched until Battle Tendency. It's like, okay, so I guess my point here is that number one, it's better to talk about JoJo than Dark Souls. Number two, what do you call this? It's definitely less over the top than everybody who like links images of it make it seem, right? Like, you know,
okay. I thought that ending was pretty over the top, but
really, I mean, like, the ending to Battle Tendency is like they go onto a volcano and then they like shoot the Pillarman into space, right?
Yeah, I think that's pretty over the top.
I guess
because
maybe.
The way he activates the volcano is by punching it with his chi.
Okay, okay. Now that you say it that way, I guess maybe it is a bit over the top. But I guess like at the end of the day, right? I feel like it's a lot of moments in JoJo aren't actually like. I just thought every 3 seconds was gonna be like pose, katakana on screen, and then like extreme music. I thought it was gonna be like every 5 seconds is that. But there's actually
it's only like once per episode.
Yeah, it's only like once per episode, and there's only like one crazy thing per episode. And a lot of it's actually like, at least in Battle Tendency, it's about like strategy and talking about Sun Tzu's Art of War or something like that. So I feel like it's definitely less over the top than I expected. But I like the show in general. I just dislike the pacing. Maybe it's like an effect of like them just wanting to get to Stardust Crusaders really fast because that's the most popular arc or whatever. Because it's like Battle Tendency and what's the first one called? Dark Blood, Rondo of Blood, whatever. Like both of those breeze by in like 12 episodes, and I feel like it's kind of weird because I guess JoJo goes through generations of people in literally 6 episodes or something. So like in one episode you get introduced to a new character.
They get a bit longer. Like it's on like the first arc is pretty short, and then the second arc is a bit longer, and then the third arc is like much longer. Like they spend in the modern era, they spend like several seasons.
Yeah, so that's what I think I'll appreciate more, because it's like, like Caesar in Battle Tendency was like there for 3 episodes, then he dies, and they give him like a really epic like death, and like JoJo's like so disheartened, and I'm like, but I only found out about this character 3 episodes ago. So it's like, I kind of feel weird about that pace. But in the end, I like it. I like the poses. I like the musical references. I like all the Pillarmen being American rock bands for whatever reason.
It's a good show. It's certainly worth a watch.
Yeah, and this will be the last time I talk about JoJo on the show, so I've put it to bed. The other thing I've been doing is getting excited for The Lost Age. I recently backed this tabletop tactical game on Kickstarter, and I backed it.
I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, the art's great. Like, it's nicely watercolored. I finally got my hardbound copy of the book. Looks very nice. I did not get the leather edition, which would have been way better, but would have cost me way more. So I'll talk about two things. So basically, the Lost Age is set in a Bronze Age, like Eastern, Middle Eastern kind of setting, where gods and everything it's like everybody's pagan at this point, right? Like, so there's basically like gods for everything. There's a god of like wisdom and a god for fertility and all of these concepts. But the cool thing is that these gods were actually originally just mortal people. And the reason they ascended to godhood was because they epitomized each of those aspects so much that people all around the world, or at least all around the setting, believed them to be the god of that thing, so much so that they ascended and actually did become the god of that thing. And the combat system's interesting. It's tactical combat, and instead of having like health, each of your body parts has health. And like, somebody deals damage targeting a specific body part of yours, and each body part's tied to a stat. So, for example, if somebody targets your head enough, your intelligence score drops. Or
you don't just take a head injury and die. But okay,
I mean, if you take
I
enough damage,
I get it.
Yeah, but if that, of course, it's like if you keep taking head damage too much, you do die. Like, if any of the stats reaches 0, I think you actually die. So that's like one of the concepts there. Your legs are agility, and your hands are dexterity, and your body's constitution, and all that stuff. So that's pretty cool. I backed this game. I spent a little bit on the create a character tiers, because I've always been wanting to put a character in an RPG setting, and I can't afford any of the BattleCon create a character tiers. So I did it for this.
Oh, okay.
Yes. Yeah, so, alright, so that's pretty much what I've been doing. Let's move on to the pipeline segment, where we can talk about some cool things, especially relating to the BattleCon Unleashed Kickstarter. So, Brad, tell us, what are you going to talk to us about in the pipeline for this week?
So I was going to talk a little bit about the two bonus characters that have been revealed so far on BattleCon Unleashed. Rheye has been unlocked as a playable character.
Hooray!
In BattleCon Unleashed. And then Andrus was revealed as a playable character, and we'll unlock him when we get to 300k on the project.
So tell me about, wait, did you finally tell us how Andrus' last name is pronounced? Say it again one more time. Clear copy.
Dockertai?
Dockertai.
So thing about Andrus, and I guess I can talk about Andrus first now that we're talking about him, is that he is a backer created character. And so the way that you actually say his name is a mystery even to me.
Ooh, so mysterious.
But I believe it's Dockertai.
Dockertai. All right, so tell me about Andrus Dockertai. I just know one thing about him, and that he's in Pixel Tactics and he's cool.
It may be like Dohartai or something.
Dohartai? Okay.
I don't know.
Darghartoi.
Dohartai sounds cool, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sounds like something out of Game of Thrones, like call the Dohartai.
Oh, is he like a race of like evil orcs? I think that's like something you call a bunch of evil orcs, right? Oh, the Dohartai are coming.
Oh my gosh! All right, let's ignore that. So right. So Andrus is a swordmaster. He's an ex-planestalker. He's now one of the Royal Knights of Jeffries, and he serves Princess Marjoram on her quests to bring peace to Indians. And that is kind of the long and short of the story. So the deep lore for this character hasn't been completely finished up yet, but that's the top level stuff. He fights with two swords. One is infused with fire, the other is infused with ice, and he uses these together kind of like Vana. It's like he's got two halves of the Divine Rush token, and he can use one at one time or one at the other time, or he can use both together for power attacks, and they cycle around and recharge after being used.
I see. I always thought they were daggers. I didn't know they were swords.
Swords, daggers, short swords. It's pretty much, sufficiently long daggers are indistinguishable from swords.
Okay, I guess if you did the scaling tool on like Photoshop on a dagger, I guess it would be a sword if you think about it that way.
There you go.
All right.
So the fighting style for this character was sort of loosely inspired by Maya from Killer Instinct.
The
I
two
don't know
Tonfa
if,
girl? I like the two Blades girl. The two Dagger
yeah, so
girls.
she fights with the two swords, and periodically she will, she can throw these weapons, or they can be knocked out of her hands, and that'll change her fighting style a little bit.
Mm.
So Andrus has a bit of that going on with the two weapons, and also some triggers that will change if they're on cooldown. So,
Ooh, that's interesting.
uh,
Because Vana doesn't have that, right? She doesn't have that mechanic of whether or not she anti-Divine Rush. But this character, Andrus, has effects that change depending on whether or not his blades are active.
yeah, and he's currently in playtesting. So if you are a playtester, you can go and check him out and see what he's all about. But yeah, check out Andrus.
Andrus is pretty cool.
Yeah, he's a cool guy. And so we wanted to do like a twin blade master, but we didn't have one, so we just took the backer created character. This is a backer created character for Argent, and decided to make him a full BattleCon fighter. So a character that's created for a totally different purpose ended up as a Argent fighter.
Always great. I really like. So wait, before we move on, like mechanically speaking, is Andrus more of a like, weave in, weave out, hit kind of character, or is he more like Vana, who's like, stand there and then whack you really hard sometimes?
He's probably more of a, in and out sort of character, someone who is a bit more of a harrier and less of a tank. He's not a paladin like Vana is.
Okay, that's good to know. Okay, so that's Andrus, but let's talk about the character that everybody's really excited for. People in the comments section of the Kickstarter have been saying.
You guys aren't excited for Andrus?
No. I'm sorry. No, I'm also excited for Andrus, but
we're talking about the bird in the bush. You want to talk about the bird in hand, which is
yes,
Rheye.
Exactly,
the literal
Rheye.
Bird in hand with her wings.
Only one pair though, which means she's a rookie.
She means she's a second timer.
Oh wait, do Virians incarnate without wings the first time?
Yeah.
I didn't know. Okay, so let's talk about Rheye, the character that all of our backers have unlocked and have been clamoring for more information for.
Right, so she is a race that you mentioned called Virian. They come from the Celestial Plane, which is like the world of light. It's another reality that's above the world of Indians,
which is flat.
The people in the Celestial Planes are powered by the hopes and dreams and goodwill of the people in the world of Indians below. So there's sort of a human resource there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so periodically, to make sure that things go correctly, the Celestials, who rule that world, send down Virians to do their work in Indians.
Yeah.
So they send you down. You incarnate, because they're just spirits in their own world. They incarnate, and then they live out a normal life in Indians until such time as they receive a revelation. It tells them, "Hey, your job is to do this. Go get on that." And then they go and they do their work. Now, so Rheye talks a lot about the divines, and she's a master of divinity magic. She is able to, summon miracles from the gods and everything, but she really serves the Celestials, who are the gods of her world and not of Indians.
Okay.
And so it's really what the Celestials say that is what she's all about doing. And to give you an idea, the Celestials are kind of like, probably say they're like the Diamonds from Steven Universe. If you're familiar with that series.
Okay, yeah. They're like quasi-godlike beings, but aren't necessarily like metaphysical, right? They're like actual beings, is what you're saying.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and so they rule the Celestial Plane, this world of light, and dole out tasks. Anyway, so Rheye is actually one of the main antagonists in Argent storyline.
Oh, in what sense? How is she an antagonist? Like, is she evil?
So she's one of the villains in the storyline. And we talked a little bit about how, she doesn't have a job yet from the Celestials, and so she goes to Argent to build up power, prestige, knowledge, connections, everything that she needs to carry out her job when it finally happens. And in that in that pursuit of power and in that fear and anxiety that she will not be able to finish that job when it comes, she sort of goes over the edge and does some pretty crazy and or terrible things in trying to guarantee that she can do her job in Indians when the time comes.
Oh, wow. You wouldn't expect that of an angel, right?
You wouldn't. Then that's no, but she's not. She's just there's nothing holy or divine about Rheye. It's just that she knows a lot about defending magic and is connected to this other world. So she's just as capable of evil as anyone else.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting concept of how, like, Virians aren't necessarily good and rasps aren't necessarily bad, right?
Mm-hmm.
Very
it's
cool.
Just that in their world, their energy comes from these sources. And so, in some cases, if the world is too great, there's nothing to hope for or wish for or no need for goodwill. You start to find that these things diminish just because there's not enough trouble in the world. So the Celestials are not the greatest people either. They want to maintain the balance just like anyone else.
That's good. So one would think rasps and Virians are opposed to one another, but aren't actually necessarily. Maybe they're just like the yin and yang of Indians.
Necessarily. They don't have in the dark world where the rasps come from. There's not really that kind of structured leadership, though.
Oh,
so
are they just like the Joker? It's like chaos for chaos's sake and all that stuff.
It's a little bit more like just say probably the dark world is a lot like the world in say like Dark Souls, for example.
Oh, Brad, what have you done?
I know, right? I know. I didn't want to say it, but there you go. It's like, it's dead, and there's this wasteland, and there's these crazy monsters, and people are just trying to survive as best they can.
Oh, okay.
In this, in this wasteland.
In Dark Souls, essentially. Yes. All right.
Well, I mean, in the dark world of Indians too.
Oh, okay. That's true. I guess that's true in a sense. So let's talk about Rheye mechanics. Talk about how she plays. I don't know how she. Yeah. Well, I know how she plays, but for the purposes of this podcast and to make it so that it sounds like we're having a conversation, how does Rheye play? I don't know. I don't know how she plays. Oh, Brad, educate me.
Okay. Wow. Transparency just out the window, or just actually in the window, I suppose.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, so Rheye uses seals to restrict and control her opponents. So you place a seal down. When the opponent steps onto that seal, it flips over and something happens to them. Sometimes that means that their power is going to be reduced. Sometimes it's going to give Rheye like free movement or increased damage or various other things. So Rheye has several of these seals. She can put them down each turn. So she's a little bit like Pendros in that aspect. But unlike Pendros, who wants to keep you on the seal or keep you on his environments at a certain time to do damage or get effects, Rheye wants to throw you onto these seals with her abilities, or use the seals to wall you off from her if you're a melee character, so that she can control your movement and and strike you down from range. So she's more of a ranger type of character.
So she's like so she's a tactician then.
She's a spellcaster, ranged tactician.
I see. So if anybody's listening, you might want to reference characters like Caitlyn, I guess, or
yeah, there's a little bit of Caitlyn in there. The fighting style is mostly inspired by Testament from Guilty Gear.
The guy with the scythe.
Set out all these traps. Yeah, the guy with the scythe. You can set tons of traps, and then you try and keep the opponent away. And when they get into you, you do some big swoop across the board, and then you set more traps.
Yeah,
and that's kind of how Rheye fights.
Rheye's pretty cool. So are you telling me that when somebody steps onto one of the seals, it like flips over and then they receive the effects? So they have no idea what the seal does until they step on it, right?
Yeah, and it's only for opponents. Rheye doesn't trigger the seals.
Okay, so absolutely now gonna be the only character I play wherein, so that when people step on my traps, I go, "You've activated my trap card," and then like just show them the seal, and then it'll be great. I love it.
Yeah, it's something like that. It will surely happen.
Yeah,
Um,
it's a very like gotcha kind of moment. I like those kinds of moments.
Yeah.
You know.
she's kind of a gotcha character. I don't know that we have enough of those because there's really only Malandrax. So
I mean, I guess Pendros in a way. I mean, but not
Pendros
even,
in a
right?
way.
But not
his
even,
reveals
right?
are a lot more structured.
Yeah. Oh, Seth. Seth is one. Eric is another.
Seth is kind of the reverse because Seth got you gotcha Seth.
Oh yeah, I guess you gotcha, Seth. I was talking more about like specific cards though, like Seth's Omen. It's kind of like a gotcha card, or like Counter from
Yeah.
Eligor, or Returning from Eric, right?
Yeah, there are a few of those. That's true.
Yeah, but not entirely like characters. And I feel like that's a very cool play space that we're experiencing with Rheye. The veil comes down. I know how Rheye plays, and she's cool. I like her.
Good.
All
I
right.
think the players will enjoy her too.
Oh
She was
yeah,
a lot of fun to work on.
they definitely will. All right, so that pretty much does it for the pipeline, where Brad and I talk to you about the things you want to know about. Again, if you want us to talk about anything, especially relating to the BattleCon Unleashed Kickstarter, please tell us in the comment section down below, and we will get to that as soon as we can. Or you can just submit it via our Google Forms. Now, let's move on to my segment. Brad, are you okay for my segment? I'm really excited for my
go for
segment.
it, Marco.
All right, welcome to the 99 questions,
Segment
where I take your questions, strap them into a go-kart, and go henshin, baby, all the way around the racetrack, possibly crashing in and then drifting into the cave that is answers.
Wow. This just gets better and better.
It's beautiful. It's art. I went go-karting today, okay? So that's...
Strap them into a go-kart.
Yeah. Oh, man, I should have called it question cart.
You can't even strap them because they're just questions. They're not even real. They're not physical presence.
But what if I write them on a piece of paper, Brad? Huh?
And then why even race? Why not just drive straight into the cave? It's so easy. It's just right there. And how does the cave even answer the questions? There's not...
The cave is called...
Marco? What's the first question?
Okay, the cave is called Answers, okay? Okay, first question. When will we have our level 99 Games Infinity War? Millennium Blades versus Indians versus 7th Cross.
Well, Marco, there's some ongoing talk about this. I know that they're different series. There's certainly some link between them. We'll see. I think we have some cool announcements next year that you can look forward to.
Oh man, Brad, what are you doing to me? Obviously,
Yeah.
The answer is that it's basically a game of Millennium Blades, but you're drafting BattleCon and 7th Cross cards instead, right? And yeah, and then instead of tournaments, you go through dungeons, and the combat in the dungeons is BattleCon.
Disc Duelers.
Disc Duelers. Yes, of course, it's brilliant. And then at the end of it all, the deciding game is this is actually just all set up for resources so that you can end up playing Argent and win Chancellorship.
Yep. Got it figured out, Marco.
It's genius.
All of the level 99 games actually Voltron together. This is my master plan ever since we started.
Ever since BattleCon War, the first game, they were all meant to
you gotta own both editions of War and both editions of Devastation if you want to pull off the transformation correctly.
Yeah, of course. What's this game called, Brad? What's the Voltron game called?
Oh gosh. It is called I want to keep it secret, Marco. I don't want to reveal this yet.
Oh man. All right. So my working title for
But you'll know it when you hear it.
I see. My working title is obviously 99 rules questions, because I'm pretty sure this game's gonna be complex as heck.
No.
All right. Next question. Will there be any way to gift characters to our friends using coins in BattleCon Online?
So in BattleCon Online, we're not planning to allow any kind of inter-account transfer, either of friends or coins or avatars or anything. We will have an invite a friend incentive eventually, so that you can invite your friend and you can both get new stuff. But that's still a work in progress. But that's about as far as we're planning to take it, as far as inter-account transfers go. You don't want to create, because because it's nice to be able to give your friend a character, but that leads down to the road of, farming characters and, online aftermarkets and, other kinds of like extra game, real money transactions. And we don't want to get involved in all that.
That makes sense. It's really dicey. I mean, like, have you seen the stuff that Steam goes through every time they do something like this, right?
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to go down that path.
The dark road of capitalism. All right, last question, Brad. Brad. On average, how many times per hour do you check on the BattleCon Unleashed Kickstarter?
I only check it a few times a day. I used to when the first BattleCon Kickstarters ran. I would I'd be like sitting there on the couch. It'd be like 8:30 at night, and I'd be like, I gotta check my backers, and I would open up my app and I would check, or I'd run to my computer and I'd check because this is before they even had the app. And I'd run to my computer and check, and then there'd be like 1 or 2 more backers, and I'd walk back down and I'd go sit down, and then 15 minutes later I'd be up at it again. And it's been 7 years. I've mellowed out. I'm not that compulsive anymore. I don't check it more than I need to. I like to check in to answer comments and say hey to everybody, but that's it. I do check a little bit less once a project is successful. I'm always more nervous beforehand.
I see.
So it's good for my sanity that Unleashed funded so quickly. That's all I gotta say.
Well, if you think about it too, like at this point, I think you also have to just check it less because you have people like me or Chris or like a bunch of other people to pick up the slack, right?
Yeah, that's true too. I have a lot of help, so I don't need to be doing everything.
Aw, hearts. Korean hearts, the thing with like the index finger and the thumb. I'm doing it. I don't know. How do you do that in an audio?
Oh, Marco.
Yeah, how do you do that in an audio medium? Kawaii hearts. I don't know. I don't know what that's called. I'm a great voice actor, Brad.
Yeah. We'll have to get you into those BattleCon Unleashed VAs.
Oh, of course. BattleCon Online should really have an announcer.
Yeah.
Somebody going like,
maybe so.
Beat 1. Beat 2. I'm just kidding. All right.
I don't think it would be too bad, actually. It would be good to have some kind of overarching thing. But
okay.
Anyways,
Brad, if you do put in an announcer, it doesn't have to be me. It has to absolutely have that thing before every game wherein they randomly shout a thing that sounds exciting but makes no sense. It's like, like heaven or hell, let's rock. Like something like that, right? Style or base, let's go. Or I don't know.
Like
Battle
duel one, fight.
Yeah, or something like that.
One duel per match in BattleCon Online.
Yeah. So exactly like that. I would love that. All right. So as much as I would like to keep ranting, as much as I would like to keep you held up here, Brad, I know you're a busy boy and a busy man. So maybe we should end this episode of the podcast. Are you okay with that?
Yeah. Let's call it quits. No more podcasts.
Oh. I guess this is the last episode of the Level Cap podcast, everyone. Thanks for listening. It's very unfortunate.
It's always the last episode till the next one, Marco. Don't give up. Don't be such a quitter. Just because somebody says we're going to end the podcast doesn't mean you should end the podcast.
Yeah, but you are the guy who decides whether or not we should keep doing these. So, you're not just a rando. You are the guy who says whether or not the podcast dies.
Are you just going to listen to your producer and do everything they say? Is that how you make it in Hollywood? No.
All right,
you gotta go above and beyond.
Well, I deny your statement and say that this will be the last episode of the Level Cap podcast for the time the listener is listening to this. Hopefully, we see you guys next week where I defy Brad and make another episode even without him.
All right, that's what I like to hear, Marco.
Just
that determination, that spirit.
Just you watch, Brad.
Burning spirit.
Oh my god. I'm sorry.
What's your musical crossover name now, Marco?
Oh my gosh, my musical crossover name is of course Josie and the Marco Cats, and It's great because Josie and the Marco
My
Cats.
stand, Josie and the Marco Cats, allows me to podcast as 5 different people at once.
That's not
thus
a bad
carrying
power.
the entire podcast myself. One of the
Indeed.
people can even imitate you, Brad.
Yes, one of them is actually just you, Brad. You're now part of my stand because it now steals your voice and personality.
Oh my god!
Okay, is that a JoJo reference? I'm not sure,
Yes,
but as usual.
That's a season 3 reference.
Yeah. No,
Okay.
that's old Joseph, right?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
old Joseph.
Oh no! All right. So thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Level Cap Podcast. I hope all of you enjoyed. If you have any comments, questions, or suggestions, please tell us in the comment section down below. And if you liked what you listened to, please click the like button or the heart button if you're listening to this on our official website. Without much else to say, as usual, that's been me, your host, Marco De Santos, with my stand, Marco and the Marco Cats. And with me has been an amazing CEO, producer, god of Level 99 games himself.
It was me, Brad, all along.
Conobrada. And thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and thank you, World of Indies. Thank you, and good night.
And as always, happy gaming.